Hello children, this is your second session of biology for the standard of 8. So now let us move into the topic now. Today's topic is reproduction in animals. So today's topic is reproduction in animals. Last class we saw about the cell structure and microorganisms. Now we are going to see about the reproduction in animals. How various animals reproduce, how the young ones are formed. So when there is a fusion of gametes, a new adult is formed. So what are the biological process involved in it? Those we will be studying in this session. So how does reproduction help to maintain the species from passing of generations from one to another? How a small kitten is formed, how it is formed. It is due to reproduction only. How a dog, small puppy is formed. It is due to reproduction. How babies are formed. It is because of reproduction only. So now we are going to focus on this reproduction part and see what are the organs involved in it and what are the uses and how they are formed. How a fertilized egg is formed. Let us start the lesson now. So first is reproduction means it is the continuation of species. Reproduction means it is the continuation of species. For a species, for any organism to pass, to continue its own kind, we need reproduction. What happens if reproduction is stopped? The existence of the organisms will be also stopped. No new organisms will be formed, and those who are pre-existing, they will get old and die. So that's what will happen in all the animals and all the species. So for that we need reproduction. It is essential for the continuation of species. So that is what is told here. Reproduction means it is the continuation of species. So next we are moving on to the modes of reproduction. So what are the ways reproduction can be done? So those we are going to see now. We are going to see about the modes of reproduction. So first one is sexual reproduction. What is it? Sexual reproduction. So the sexual reproduction means it is the fusion of male and female gametes. What happens? The male gametes, that is the sex cell, and the female sex cell, what happens? It fuses together. So that is called sexual reproduction. When there is a fusion, when they attach together, when they fuse together, when the fusion of male and female, the male gamete and female gamete fuse to form a single cell. What happens when both these nucleus together they fuse to form a single cell? So two different gametes, what will happen if they fuse? They will turn into one single cell. That is what is given here. Fusion of male and female gametes to form a single cell. Fusion of male and female gametes to form a single cell. So that single cell is called as the zygote. What is it is called? Zygote. I'll read it once again. Fusion of male and female gametes to form a single cell. So that single cell is called as zygote. Next is this zygote, what happens? It develops into an adult. So after fertilizing, after fusion, what happens? This zygote only is developed into a new adult. All the organisms that you see, all the animals that you see, all the human beings that you see, so all are formed from this zygote only. So this zygote develops into an adult similar to their parents. Since the gametes have come from where? From the parents only. So it will exhibit the characteristics of parents only. No different characters will be exhibited. So we look like our parents. The dog mother looks like the puppies. So there is a similarity. We also have the similarities. How it is happening? Why? Because we are from those gametes only. From the parent gametes only we are produced. So that zygote. So when after fusion, that zygote develops into an adult and similar to the parents. So it will be, the characteristics will be similar to the parents. So we are moving on to the next mode of reproduction. Next is the asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction. So in this reproduction, only single parent, either the male gamete or the female gamete will be present. So what happens? Those will involve in the reproduction to form a new younger one. So no sex cells, that is gametes. So no female gamete, male gamete and all will be there. Won't be there. Only single parent, either male or female only will be there. So no sex cells are present, they are absent. That is gametes. So here, since there is no two parents here, no fusion takes place. No fusion takes place. So example, in Hydra, if you take it will reproduce through budding, a process called budding. What will happen? The plant, the Hydra plant will be here. It will form like a bulgy structure from the main plant. It will form a bulgy structure like this. So what happens? That will get separated and form into a new Hydra. That Hydra, it will have a bud, it will start from a small size and it will grow bigger, and what will happen? It will fall off and that will develop into a new Hydra. So this is called asexual reproduction. There is no fusion, there is no gametes, it just did it by itself. Only single parent is involved. So that is called asexual reproduction. Only single parent is present, sex cells, that is gametes, are absent and no fusion takes place. So these are the points under asexual reproduction. Next we are moving on to the process of reproduction. Process of reproduction. So how the reproduction is happening? So male and female reproductive parts are present in separate individuals. So what happens? The male reproductive part will be in an individual and the female reproductive part will be in a different individual. So both when it is come together, the reproduction takes place. It is not present in the same organism. The male reproductive organ will be in a different organism and the female reproductive organ will be in a different organism. So that is what is told here. Male and female reproductive parts are present. So they are present in separate individuals. So I think you understand what is written here. Next we are moving on to the male reproductive organ. Male reproductive organ. First we are going to see about how the male reproductive organ is formed. This is the structure of male reproductive organ. Here we have a tubular structure like this. If you can see, so that is called the spermid duct. That is called the spermid duct. Then you have a central structure like this. That is called the penis. That is called the penis. Next, we have a round structure connecting to the spermid duct. We have a round structure like this. That is the testis. The spermid duct, penis, and testis. So these are the three main parts of the male reproductive system. So the male reproductive system will look like this. So let us see what these organs will do. What are its functions? So a pair of spermid duct, testis, and penis are present. So spermid duct is present on both these sides. So two spermid ducts are present. So that is what is told here. Pair of two spermid cell and a testis. So this structure is called the testis, that is present, and penis is present. So penis is present, testis is present, and a pair of spermy duct is present. Next is this testis produce male gametes called sperms. So what happens? This round structure, this only will produce the male gamete called the sperms. So testis produce male gametes. So we studied here male and female gametes when they fuse together. It is called as reproduction. They form the zygote. So that male gamete is called nothing but the sperms. It is produced by this testis only. So next is spermy duct carry the sperms to the penis. So this spermy duct, this tubular structure that only carries the sperms. So after the sperm is produced, that only will carry the sperms to the penis. So that only will carry the sperms to the penis. Next is penis ejects urine and sperms. So this penis part only ejects the sperms. So how the sperms come? The sperms are formed. It is then travel through the spermy duct. First is testis produces the sperms, and those will be passed through the spermy duct, and it will be ejected. It will be let out by the penis. So urine and sperms will be let out in male through the penis only. Next is human sperm. Next is human sperm. So now we are going to see the internal structure, how the sperm is formed. So this is the structure of sperm. So it will have a head part and a middle piece, and finally a tail. A head part, middle piece, and the tail is present. So this is the structure of sperm. So it is unicellular. This sperm is unicellular. That is, only one cell will be present. And this sperm has a head, a middle piece, and a tail. So three parts are present: head, middle piece, and tail. So this is the structure of sperm, human sperm. So we have saw what is reproduction, the modes of reproduction, and main reproductive organ, and about the human sperm. Now I am going to give you a recap of it from the first lesson, children. So reproduction means it is the continuation of species. For a species to continue from one generation to another, we need reproduction. So what are the modes of reproduction? First is sexual reproduction. In this, fusion of male and female gametes. When the male and female gametes fuse, they form a single cell called zygote. So that zygote only develops into an adult, and they will be similar to the parents. Next is asexual reproduction. So here only single parent is involved. Only single parent is involved. Then the sex cells are absent. That is, the gametes are absent. Only single parent will be present. And there is no fusion taking place in asexual reproduction. Since there is only single parent, no fusion takes place. Next, we are moving on to the process of reproduction. The male and the female reproductive parts are present in separate individuals. So the male part will be present in the another individual, and female part will be present in another individual. It will be separate. So the male and female reproductive parts are present in separate individuals. Next is male reproductive organ. Male reproductive organ. So this is the structure of male reproductive organ. Here you can find a tubular structure called spermy duct, and in the center the penis is the testis. So we are going to see the functions of these parts here. A pair of spermy ducts, that is, two spermy ducts are present here. A testis is present and a penis is present. So these are the parts of the male reproductive organ. Next, the testis produce male gametes called sperms. So the male gametes produced by this testis are called as sperms. So the male gametes produced by the testis are called as sperms. So spermy duct carry these sperms to the penis. So what happens? This spermy duct only carries the sperms to the penis, and penis ejects the urine and sperms. So penis only ejects, lets out the urine and sperms. Testis produces sperms, then it is carried by the spermy duct and finally let out to the penis. Next is human sperm. So the human sperm, it is unicellular. Only one cell is present in a human sperm. So it has a head. This is the structure of sperm. It has a head, a middle piece and a tail. A head, middle piece and a tail. So these are the parts of a human sperm. Now we are going to see the next reproductive organ. First we saw the male reproductive part. Now we are going to the female reproductive part. Let us see the structure first. So this is the female reproductive organ. Female reproductive organ. So this is the overall structure of female reproductive organ. So here we have a tubular structure. Structure like this. This is the fallopian tube. Fallopian tube. Then we have two bag-like structures on both the sides. It is holded by the fallopian tube. What is it? The ovaries. And we have a structure like this, a bag-like structure. This is the uterus. Uterus. And here we have a structure, wavy structure like this. This is the cervix, and finally the vagina is present. First, a tubular structure called fallopian tube is present on both the sides, and two bags of ovaries are present, and a bag-like structure called uterus is present, and a wavy structure. This is the cervix, and here you can see the vagina. So these are the few parts of female reproductive organ. So we will see what these parts will do. What are those functions? So first is pair of ovaries. So we are now going to see these bag structures. Two bag-like structures, the ovaries. What they do? The pair of ovaries that produce female gametes called ova. So these ovaries, what they do? They only produce the female gametes. Female gametes called ova. There we saw the testis produce sperms, that is the male gamete. But in female gamete, it is produced by the ovaries. The ovaries produce the female gametes called the ova. Those are the eggs. It's called as the ova. It is produced by the ovaries. So next we are moving on to the oviduct. Oviduct, that means the fallopian tube. So this is the oviduct. So single egg released into the oviduct by one of the ovaries. So what we saw, these two ovaries only will produce the female gametes, that is the ova. What it will do, it will get released through this fallopian tube. The egg is released through this tube, that is the fallopian tube or oviduct, by one of the ovaries every month. So every month what happens, one ova gets released into this fallopian tube inside this uterus. So that only through the oviduct only. The ovaries, from the ovaries, the ova is passed every month. So every month, one ovary will pass through it. So next is uterus. So this part is the uterus. What it do? Development of baby takes place. So uterus, what it do? The development of baby takes place. If the baby is formed, it will develop in this uterus only. So the baby will be present in the uterus only. Next is egg. Egg means the ovum. So this egg is the female gamete. So if it is in singular, it is called as ova. If it is in plural, it is called as ovum. So it is small in humans. So comparing to the other animals, the egg, the female gamete of the human beings are very small. So it is large in duck and hen. So the egg is large in hen and duck. So in those animals, the egg is very large. As the largest egg is found in ostrich. The largest egg is found in ostrich. So ostrich only has the biggest egg. First, it is small in humans and large in duck and hen. And finally, largest egg is present in the ostrich. So we will see what an egg is. Like sperm, it is a single cell. So there we saw sperm is a unicellular organism. Only one cell is present. So likewise, like sperms, it has, so even this egg, the ovum has only one cell. So this is also unicellular. It has a nucleus and a cytoplasm. Nucleus and a cytoplasm. So this egg has a nucleus in the center for controlling the cell, and the cytoplasm is present. A jelly-like substance is present inside this egg. Next is fertilization. So now we saw what are the different parts of the female reproductive organ. Next we are going to see what is fertilization. So fertilization means it is the fusion of sperm and egg. So sperm means from the reproductive organ of female. The testis produces the sperm. Egg is produced from the ovaries. So what happens when both the gametes are fused? When the sperm and egg are fused together, the fertilization takes place. That fusion only is called as fertilization. So the nuclei of sperm. So what we told, it is a single celled organism. One nucleus is present. So when the nucleus of the sperm and the nucleus of the egg, so both will have one nucleus in its body. So what happens when they both fuse together? It forms into a single nucleus. The nuclei of sperm and egg fuses to form one single nucleus. When the nuclei of the sperm and egg, when they fuse, only one single nucleus is formed. So after fusion, what happens? It results in the formation of fertilized egg. So what happens? After the fusion of sperm and egg, the fertilization takes place. After that, a fertilized egg is formed. So that is called as the zygote. So after the fusion, a fertilized egg is formed, called as the zygote. So these are the points at the fertilization. First we saw what is fertilization, and then we saw what happens to the nucleus after fusion, and then after fertilization the zygote is formed. So these are the 3 points in fertilization. Next, types of fertilization. Types of fertilization. First is internal fertilization. So fertilization means what? When there is a fusion of sperm and egg, then it internal fertilization. For example, human beings, the babies will be inside the womb of the mother. So what happens? It comes out. So the baby is formed inside the womb of the stomach of the mother. So the fertilization takes inside the stomach of the mother. So that is only internal fertilization. Fertilization takes inside the body. Next is external fertilization. External fertilization. Here what happens? The fusion of these sperm and egg takes place outside the body. All the fusion, the form of fertilized egg is formed outside the body of an organism. So that is called as external fertilization. For example, hen and all, the fertilization takes outside the body. That is the egg. So next is test tube babies. Test tube babies. So test tube babies, how they are formed? What happens is these babies will be cultured in the lab. It is not a natural procedure. It is an artificial man-made procedure. What they do is in a lab, they take this sample of sperm and they take sample of an egg and they fuse together under certain conditions in laboratory. So after when the egg starts developing and gets fertilized, what they do, they will insert inside a mother and it will be born like a normal child. So this is called test tube babies. So these are the three types of fertilization. First is the internal fertilization, where the fertilization takes place inside the body. External fertilization means the fertilization takes place outside the body, and test tube babies will be cultured. The fusion will be cultured in the laboratory, and after fertilizing, they will insert into the mother, and it will be born like a normal child. So these are the three types of fertilization. Here we saw the structure of a female reproductive organ and the various parts and their functions. Then we saw what is fertilization and the types of fertilization. Now I am going to give you a recap of it from the first lesson, children. So the female reproductive organ. So this is the structure of female reproductive organ. Here in both the sides you can find the fallopian tube and two bag-like structures called the ovaries are present, and below that you can find the uterus, and the cervix is present below the uterus, and finally vagina is present. So pair of ovaries that produce female gametes are called ova or eggs. So these pair of ovaries, they only produce the female gametes called as the ova. Next is oviduct or fallopian tube. So oviduct is also called as fallopian tube. So single egg released into the oviduct by one of the ovaries every month. So what happens? This ovary releases an egg through this fallopian tube every month. So next is the uterus. So development of baby takes place here. In this uterus only the baby will be developed. When the baby is formed, the baby will be developed in the uterus only. Next is the egg, the ovum. So for singular it is called as ova, for plural it is called as ova. So this ova is small in human beings. Comparing to other animals, it is small in humans and larger for duck and hen. The size of the egg is larger for duck and hen compared to humans, and the largest egg is present in ostrich. Next is, like sperm, it is a single cell. So like the sperm, the ovum is also a single cell. It is also unicellular and it has a nucleus and cytoplasm. So this ovum has a nucleus inside it and cytoplasm, a jelly-like substance is present. Next is fertilization. Fusion of egg and sperm is called fertilization. When the sperm from the testis and egg from the ovaries fuse, what will happen? Fertilization takes place. The nucleus of sperm and egg fuses to form single nucleus. And the nucleus of the sperm and the nucleus of the egg fuse together to form one single nucleus. So it results in the formation of fertilized egg called zygote. So what happens when they both fuse together? A fertilized egg is formed with a single nucleus. So that is what is called as zygote. Then next is types of fertilization. First here we saw what is fertilization. Now types of fertilization. First is the internal fertilization. That is the fusion of sperm and egg takes place inside the body of the organism. Then it is called as internal fertilization. Next, external fertilization means when the fertilization takes outside the body of an organism, then it is called as external fertilization. So test tube babies means the fusion of egg and sperm will be happening in a laboratory under certain conditions, and they will culture the fusion artificially. It is not a natural method. They will fuse the sperm and egg, and after it gets fertilized, they will insert that egg into the womb of the mother, that is the uterus of the mother. So in that way the test tube babies are born. So it will be born naturally. So these are the processes under babies. So in this session we saw what is reproduction and the modes of reproduction, about the male reproductive organ and those various parts and how they function. Then we saw the structure of the human sperm, and here we saw the structure of the female reproductive part and what are those parts present and those functions. Then we saw what is fertilization and the types of fertilization. So these are the topics covered in this session. So your classwork will be given through the WhatsApp group through PDF form. Copy it correctly without any spelling mistake and learn for the exam student. Thank you.